Hey guys, welcome to the shop. This week, doing the wicks on the K&T mill table, getting the table back on it, getting the ends back on it, the bearing replacement on the thrust bearings for the lead screw, get those back in. I've got some de-rusting agent that I got given to me that I think's pretty cool, so let's get started. Okay, so the table is all but about 6 inches off the K&T here, and we've got access to everything that I think that we'll need access to. There's really nothing, left of where the table sits, so all the important components are easily accessible. We've got our oiling spots, or where our pads were, little felt pads that I showed last week. I've got one that's bad. I've got some material, so I'm going to make all new felt pads. We've got enough wicking material to replace all of our wicks under the table. I just don't have enough to replace the ones in this pocket here. That's just an oil reservoir that you add oil to daily, I guess. And those wicks draw oil up from this cavity and oil the saddle, if I'm not mistaken, where this sets, the bottom. So we need to make those felt pads. I got my bearings in, thankfully, all my components. These are the old ones, so we can replace those. And who knows what else we'll get into, so let's get started doing something. So these pads, or the holes where these pads go, it's like 1.25 inches or 31.66 millimeters. So we need to make these somehow, and I want them good and round. I want them to fit proper. So let's make a die that cuts them out of our material, so we can just punch them out. We'll spend a little time doing it, but we'll have really nice round, non-square edged pads when we're done. So let's go find a piece of material and stick it in the lathe and make us some pads. Okay, so the table on this machine is a coolant through table. It has screened slots that collect your cutting oil, runs down through those slots. It gets ran through the back of the table and then down into the slot here. I've been cleaning it out. It had a lot of cast iron buildup and stuff in it, and looks pretty decent now. Not done with it, but looks a lot better than it did. So this is the reason why I would not want to run a water-based coolant in this machine. It would probably splash and get in between these machine surfaces and cause you rusting issue. This machine was designed around cutting oil, so it runs down in this slot, runs down through this telescoping brass tube into the foot, into the pump, and then out to your cutter again. So I haven't got the cutting oil for this yet. Hopefully soon I'll be able to get it, but and we'll be able to use this machine as it was designed, and hopefully not cause it any harm. Just a little water on here is all I think that it would take to cause some pretty bad corrosion issues over time, you know what I mean. Here's me and my son washing my old Chevy pickup. We're getting ready to put some tires on it. The ones that you see here are just dry rotted and bald and dangerous, so we're cleaning it up. My son's earning his keep a bit, and just getting it ready to drive again. It sets more than anything. So here's my dad. He's almost 80, helping me put some tires on this thing. That old tire changer is one that we used, or one that he used when I was growing up in our maintenance shop he owned. piece of tubing that I cut is really close to the dimensions that I need for my felt pads for the K&T. It is 1.5 inch OD, so I can cut this down. It'll be thin walled on the outside. I can use it to in the press to cut, my discs out, and I think I can do it much faster using just something that's already almost the size that I need. So that's the deal with the pipe. So I'm gonna bore out the inside of this to 1.25 inches. That's what we need for our discs, and then sharpen the outside edge, and then cut our pieces. That should work. So we get our cutter, our felt, and a disc of PVC that we'll press the cutter into. That way we don't dull it immediately. It is stainless, not the best choice to make a cutter out of, but for our limited needs it should be alright. There we go. It's one. Okay, so I was sent a couple items to try. I'm not for sure who sent this to me. It could have been the manufacturer, it could have been a viewer. It's been some time ago, but I want to give this stuff a shot. It's what we've all seen, a rust dissolving bath. This happens to be Metal Rescue is the brand, and it mixes with 1 gallon of water. So this is the concentrate. And from what I was reading on this, it seems to be pretty environmentally friendly and safe for your hands and stuff, which is good. So let's mix this stuff up. I've got several items that I want to see how it performs on. A few taps. I've got a nice little Palmgren. I mean, it's rusted pretty good. It's not stuck solid or anything. Well, maybe it is. Almost. The screw's not stuck, but the jaw is. So I'm going to soak this thing and see how it turns out. I got this out of an outside building. You can tell how rusty it is, but it looks Other than the surface corrosion, it looks like, you know, it's never really been used very much. It's not beat up, let's just say that. Some of these items I just wanted to see how well it worked on. So let's mix this stuff up and see how well it actually works. They sent me some preventative stuff too that you spray on afterwards. Let's try it. Okay, so let's just dump this in here. This is 2 quarts, and then I've got 2 quarts here. I'm just not for sure that this will hold, you know, a gallon and then my stuff. So come on, we're just gonna mix this, and you know, it'll be close to this per gallon. Stir it up. Add some more water. Put the ice in. I don't want to overflow this thing. So that should be plenty. Almost a gallon. So none of this stuff really has any oil or anything on it, or large amounts of dirt. So that'll be neat. I wonder if it'll eat up the stuff holding that vial in, or damage this brass. It shouldn't, but we'll see. Cutter with not a lot of rust on it, but I don't have too many rusty cutters. I've already soaked my rusty cutters in elbow grease. Alright, there we go. I'm going to put the top on this and let it do its thing. We'll check it later. Okay, so we got, you know, old wicks. Just use them to measure our new wicks, the old ones. And then I'm going to pre-charge these new wicks. I don't want them to have to, I want to put them in dry. And then, you know, put them in there, put our felt pads in. We should be good to go. New pads. They fit really good. They should be just thick enough to where they just lightly rub on the bottom of the table. That should do it. I'm going to do the rest of them. It's all the same. So those pads that we cut, I mean, they fit perfect. So that's what we wanted. that should be it. All the wicks and pads are replaced, and all the surfaces are clean. So that should be at least good enough to where it's not going to damage itself, and yeah, I'm happy with it. It looks in decent shape. So still got to finish cleaning up this gib. I want to work on the oil lines a little bit and refine those. Somebody's turkited. This has been turkited, and I don't like the way that the oil lines are really shallow. So I'm going to take my Dremel tool and clean those up a bit, stone this guy off, and reinstall it. Alright, so the table's cleaned up, the gib is slid in, this thing is getting ready to go back together, cleaning up the ends of the table where our end plates butt up to this. I'm going to be using a high-tack shellac on these end plates so coolant and stuff can't run down in between these. It had something like that on it to begin with, so I'm going to go back the same way. Got my bearings in, these are the races. And I've got my 2 bearings, so I'm getting everything cleaned up and ready to go back together. And still got a lot of work to do on this end plate, but all my hardware is cleaned up and ready to go. Now, I can't get this off because I can't get the screw out of the table with the mill in the position, so I have to clean it here, and all this stuff's falling on the floor. Let me show you what I used to avoid a huge mess. This is just a party mat, what you would use in a hallway or a runner or a table cover at a party. You can buy this stuff by the roll really cheap. I just knock my dirt off on it, roll it up, and throw it in the trash. So, those are really handy. New races, bearing races. Really good. So I made a bearing driver. I'm driving in these, just a piece of aluminum, driving in these new races. Back race, get this, or the front race, and now the back. Some lithium grease. Doesn't need packed solid. It's not a high-speed bearing. It's probably enough to grease to last a lifetime. So the ends of this table has to seal here. I'm going to be using a shellac or a high-tack gasket sealant to seal this. Otherwise, any fluids that get in here will creep down in between these two surfaces, cause corrosion and possibly leak. So, originally it did have a sealant here, so I'm just cleaning it up. That way I can put it back the way it was. Alright, so I'm trying to set the backlash. I want 0 backlash on these two bearings here, and any backlash that I have will be in the nut itself, and that doesn't seem to be adjustable. So I'm just tightening this nut up that squeezes those two bearings together until I can tell that I've got resistance. Now I've already tightened this up once, much tighter than it needed to be in order to make sure that my bearings are seated. It's just a brass punch. Don't have the proper wrench for this. I want just a little drag on those bearings. That's it for the bearings anyway. Get this gearbox all sorted and painted. Just figured while I had it off, I might as well. You can always pull this off when I do the rest. And I didn't want it to rust. All the paint was all busted up on it, so figured I might as well. That's it. I went ahead and painted, I mean, you don't need to see that. Went ahead and painted the pieces, stripped them down. I couldn't put it back together as dirty as it was. Painted it with some gray that I had. Looks fine for now. And looks a lot better than old beat up paint. Here we go. If you remember from, I believe it was the last video where I said that I had some slop in this shifting lever that goes here and the one up front. Well, I looked at everything, and not one thing has excessive wear, but it's got such a chain between here and the other lever of components that interact together. All of them have a little bit of wear, so without fixing everything, I'm just not going to be able to get that slop out, which, kind of sucks, but could be worse. Just have to deal with it, I guess. Alright, so I finally got this thing back together. Both ends of the table, of course we cleaned everything along the way, and now it feels so much better. Now it doesn't have the backlash that it had before, simply because of the bad bearings and everything being out of adjustment. Still, this is not as nice as I'd like, but I think it'll be fine. Still got to clean up all my goo that I left behind, but I'm gonna wait till it sets up good first. Now, that was a lot more work than it looked like. Just cleaning up these ends, took the best part of a day. So there we go. A lot of work and a short video. Shorter. Okay, so this stuff's been soaking for probably about 12 hours now, and that may be a little too long, I just don't know. But I'm amazed at how well that stuff actually worked. And I have to say that I will never scrub with a Scotch-Brite pad anything that'll fit in something like this again. Not as long as I can, get this or a similar item. Several people make this stuff, and it's probably all exactly the same. But I mean, it worked amazing. Let me show you some of the pieces that I derusted. Okay, so the water the solution is definitely dark, but I mean, this thing here, when I put it in, was covered in rust, and now it looks pretty good. You can still see. I mean, of course, this is not going to remove any pitting or anything. All of that will remain, but all of the rust itself, has been dissolved and went into solution, I guess, or broke free. That's pretty neat, and really, man, I'd seen this stuff. People use this before. This is the first time that I've used it myself, and I will be using it again. Let's just say that, especially on small parts like this, that you can't clean that any other way, really, not without damaging it. So let me dig through here. We'll get all the parts out. I'll lay them out, and I'll show you. Items like this, with the this is one of the Scully Jones quick change tool holders. This is Morse taper number 1, and man, how do you clean up in there successfully without like using a piece of sandpaper on a stick or something, and then your sandpaper can't distinguish between the machine surface and the rust, so you end up abrading both to remove the rust, and this seems to get around that. Okay, there's the vise. And that worked great. But look at that. That thing was completely brown. Yeah, it's going to have to go back in there. But it looks good. Stuck a couple more items in here that were pretty rusty. This, just to see how well it would do. This center drill, I mean, you could not have cleaned it without damaging the cutting edges, not easily. And that's a good usable center drill now. Do a couple dies in there. Imagine trying to clean that. And these were also just completely mud brown with rust. Alright, so I pulled the screw and stuff out of this. I want to soak this, in individual pieces. I think it'd be better, but like screws or taps, look at that. That thing was pretty rusty, and there's no way to get in between the teeth and stuff to clean it without damaging it. So I'm impressed, I'll say that. And I would wager that any of these types of rust removal products are probably all about the same. So that is impressive. Check out that square head. It didn't damage anything. Didn't even damage the paint. Okay, so I'm gonna let this thing soak for probably another hour or so. See if I can get that spot removed. I mean, it's just a discoloration, I guess, where the jaw. So it's probably a best idea to disassemble whatever it is you're going to soak. You probably get better results that way. But this thing looks almost brand new, man. I am going to clean this thing up, paint it, and give it away to one of my patrons, I believe. Make a nice gift. It's a nice little vise. I've already got 2 of them just like it, so I don't need this one. Well, that turned out really nice. Definitely happy with the way that stuff works. Definitely changes the way I think about de-rust and stuff. At least small things anyway, or stuff that's hard to clean or that you would damage otherwise. I threw some paint on it just to keep it from rusting. I'm going to be giving it away, like I said, to one of my patrons, so they can paint it whatever color they choose. I just didn't want it to rust in the meantime. So I took last week off. I spent some time with the family. I've been searching for quite some time for a dirt bike for my son, something to get him out of the house, off the games, something that will aid in me teaching him how to maintain his equipment. Something he's interested in. He's not so interested. He's 12. He's not so interested in these machines and stuff, and he doesn't enjoy really coming out here just to mess with this stuff. But he does enjoy anything with wheels and a motor, which I'm sure a lot of you guys will understand. And I think it's a good opportunity to teach him to maintain his equipment and get him out of the house. And that's my goal, is to spend some time with him. You know, my daughter, she'll enjoy riding it too. You know, it's the same for her. She's not so interested in the maintenance side, but you know, she'll pick up some stuff from it, I'm sure. How to shift a manual transmission, you get it. So that's the reason. We've got a lot to do to it. I'll share all that, or some of that with you. You know, that machine related stuff. We got some broken bolts and stuff we got to get out, and you know, lots of little things that need serviced. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Sorry for the long-winded outro, but you know, that's the way it goes. So thanks for watching, guys. Big thanks to my patrons, viewers, and subscribers. Click on my little guy to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. You need to. And email me if you need anything. And that's it. See you next time, guys.